Gundam.tk presents HGUC Juaggu.
Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2B's Gundam.tk, and a ridiculous mobile suit design deserves a ridiculous review occasionally. I'm talking about the HGUC Juaggu here in its Unicorn version colors, not the brown MSV colors. This is an old school MSV from the 1980s that we waited a long time for. A newer kit, or was anybody waiting for it considering it wasn't animated? Anyway, let's get to some of the pros and cons so that you can make your own call. Now he knows he's been a bad boy, so he's been sent to sit down, so let's start with the big one for this. 1,700 yen when you compare it to the HGUCs from the 1 Year War, and this is definitely up there in terms of designs and simplicity. When you think about things like Goose and Zaku's, there's not all that much more plastic here in terms of that, but you're going to be paying 1,700 yen. And it's just the kind of thing that you may think 1,000 or 1,200 might just be a little bit more appropriate for somebody who doesn't have a backpack, doesn't have weapons, doesn't have a lot of accessories. But again, you are going to be getting the complexity that's built into things like the trunk. However, it's just a little bit shocking that you're going to get something this simple for that kind of price, especially when you're thinking of it in terms of 1981. Overall, the seals themselves, well, they're a little bit disappointing, only because I haven't put them on yet, because they don't seem to be adding all that much. Actually, the trunk down there, you can see if you just lift that up, I think it's actually not going to look bad with just the original color on there. And I think that that should have been gray, actually made out of plastic if they really wanted to make it stand out. You've got these vent parts here that are going to go on pretty well, but again, painting is better. But whenever you've got things that are going to bend down in all these different directions over 6 different parts, and then still try to sit flat, well, you can imagine that some of them are not going to stay on all that long. So you're probably, of course, you're better off painting it, or perhaps not even putting them on whatsoever. I don't think it looks bad with them off. In terms of the fact when you've got posability, well, he doesn't have all that many poses, and yet he seems to fall and tumble over quite a few times. And that's mostly going to come down to the fact that even though we've got some good shoulder design up there, the hips are very, very poor the way they're just designed. You're just going to have that attachment point on there. Simple poly caps involved at every point down here from the ankles up there. You just think that with a ridiculous kit like this, you could do something a little bit more with the legs. But instead, yeah, you can get him to sit down, but if you try to do anything vaguely dynamic and spread the legs off to the side, well, toppling over, he will go. Speaking of the lack of poses, he's not going to have any backpack wings that are going to open up Destiny or Freedom style, and you're not going to be having anything fancy in terms of weapons, outside of the fact that you're going to have hands moving, so you can have the left hand up, the right hand up, both hands up, and then you're going to run out of ideas from there unless you want to elevate them, and then you can do pretty much just the same things, although you could have them rocketing out of the water or into space as those things pointing back as thrusters. But outside of that, you're just not going to have all that much, which you shouldn't be surprised about. And some of the things that they advertise, like, hey, the neck is going to move really well up and down. Well, no, it's not. It's going to move up a little bit. It's going to fall back into place. Not too much you can do with it. In terms of assembly, it's going to be pretty tricky getting those poly caps into these white parts before you actually attach them onto the hand. They can pop back out, so you put in the poly cap, then you put the white part on, and then when you put that onto the gold part, it's just going to pop the poly cap out, and then you've got to start over again. Jam it in there with a pen or something, whatever you're going to have to do to get that to actually attach on properly. It's just going to be a little bit tricky. But is it all bad? Absolutely not. For me, I'd say there's a lot more positives than negatives, and let's start with the simple ones. How about those colors? If you want to go old school, you've still got a brown one that you can buy online. But in terms of just jazzing it up and still keeping a simple old school, when you think of old school MSV, and not just MSVs, but the old school mobile suits from the 1 Year War, you think green, you think purple, you think blue. And with this one, just the fact they're going to take that simple, the 3 tones here, but they're going to be applied in very just sparse ways, and they're still going to have that color separation between them. And I think that the gold and white to go along with that brown Akai-ish is just a fantastic combination. I'd like to have the brown one, but I think that this one definitely takes the cake in terms of being modern and old school all at the same time. And they're just, when they're applied that well, who can complain? The overall simplicity of this kit, for me, it's a good thing. It's a throwback. It's simple. The legs, yes, they are not going to function all that well, but we've seen kits go in the opposite directions, especially Master Grades, Age and Exia and everything that just wants to go toppling over. Here, well, you can't do all that much, but you know what? As long as you've got it positioned properly, it's not going to move. You don't need all that many moving parts, because really, what can you do with it in terms of posing? And so they're not going to be trying to give you too many options, and yet it's still going to be modernized enough that you can attach it onto an action base too, and do all the modern things that we'd come to expect, and would definitely be unhappy if they had omitted it. And back in 1980, nobody was thinking about it. How about its mono eye there? A very important feature for any sort of bad guy. I think it looks fantastic, and you've got the playability there. First of all, you've got a clear screen, which is going to look great. You've got the little tick marks there for the aiming. You've got the fact that you can just pop the head off on a very smooth little mount there, and you can move the mono eye there left, right, all over the place, the kind of things that old school master grades couldn't even do. Here we're getting on a high grade. It's just a lot of fun to do. And the details, there's just going to be surprising details in surprising places, like that backpack. Yeah, it's hidden on the back there, but it's going to be simple and fun. And you can see the bottoms of the soles here. They're going to be good. We've seen this on lots of other kits, but it's the kind of thing, this guy's feet are going to be up in the air as he does that ridiculous sitting pose a lot more than most. And if you want to go detail it up, add some metallic fans, do things like that, all of these details are going to be built in by the designers for you to exploit when you're actually setting it up. And even though I'm not crazy about the regular decals, how about these extra marking seals that you're going to be getting? We've seen Bandai with Jaburo and kits and like that they're going to be giving you a lot of different seals, black tri-stars, and you can do these different things. You want to label them up, you want to put numbers all over the place, Xeon in a variety of colors, add some sergeant stripes on the shoulders. It's just a kind of thing that they're going to the extra trouble to this. And you can guess that old school fans who are building up all the UC HGUC kits may just be tempted to go that extra mile and actually put them all on. In terms of the weapons, yes, he's not going to have a beam rifle, but he's got something better in the forms of 3 ridiculous fingers on each hand, which are surprisingly, well, they're fun to put together and they're fun to actually use because you are going to have the options of them moving around individually this way and this way. So it's all going to work out. Just be careful of those polycaps that they're not going to go falling out on the inside for you because you're going to have to readjust everything. And ultimately, it's not just the fingers that are going to be catching the eye here, but the elephant trunk. So you can have it facing down and it's going to stay, pop it up in the air. No problems in terms of actually staying in place and not just collapsing downwards. It's going to look great. It's going to offset the simplicity of the overall body because you've got that big nose hanging down there. And when you've just got the combination of the sitting poses, the act guy, just the fun that we've seen from the old school amphibian mobile suits, it still seems to be coming to life. And you can guess that all of this is going to add up to... And as he's peeking over his shoulder, afraid of the verdict, well, he shouldn't be, because it's tons of fun to put this kit together. It's tons of fun to see these old school designs brought to life with new technology, and Bandai overall is having a lot of fun with the ridiculousness of this kit. And it's the kind of thing for me, yes, I've always seen the old MSVs and wondered, what was that? Why did they make MSVs? Why would they sell kits that didn't appear in the anime? And yet at the end of the day, they go to the trouble of putting this into UC, and when you see it animated and actually having a few moments to shine there before he's ultimately gonna get his comeuppance. Anyway, it's just the kind of thing Bandai obviously cares about it, and you can see that in the effort that they put into designing and putting out this kit, and it just pays off. He's a lot of fun, and if you're looking for something super cool with 50 million weapons, well, you'd be looking elsewhere and not at this comical zoo animal. But if you do appreciate just the silliness of it, I think it's the kind of kit to go along Act Guy style, even though the Act Guy definitely had a lot more coolness built into him in terms of actually being a functional mobile suit back in the 80s. It's the kind of thing where you're going to have fun with this kit, and if you can't have fun with it, then you shouldn't be picking it up because the design by itself is really not going to be very impressive unless you fell in love with it from Unicorn. So for what it is, I can't say anything but good things about it. And for this Battle of the Titans, well, what else could we expect to see? You've got to wonder if he actually has any master grade possibilities whatsoever. It seems like there's so many popular kits from Unicorn that over the years, Bandai, they've been really focusing on the high grade line now for quite a few years. Eventually, we're going to be seeing more and more master grades, including of grunts, good and bad. Could this guy ever get sort of some love that he hasn't had for the last 30 years? Sort of hard to guess. But of course, we're going to be seeing more of these guys from the HGUC line, from the old MSV line. And I think that it's just a lot of fun in the fact that we see them animated after so long. Definitely the icing on the cake. Anyway, everybody, those are my opinions. This is an old school guy that I had a lot of fun putting together. But how about somebody who had never seen him before he showed up in Unicorn? Did you say, what is that wretched design? Did anybody see the model and just fall out of love with it? Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, stick around for lots more news, reviews, and everything else you can use, including of the silly variety. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya. Sorry about that. I was about to use your head as a bass jabber. The contrasts are here, and so many different levels.